Well, apparently 17,000 people, not 1,700.
Okay.
Is Rabbi Berger, has anyone seen if,
All right. Well, Rabbi Fettergren, I believe you have the honor of introducing Rabbi Jacobson to the Kehillah and to our community tonight.
I just have to find him. It's like finding Where's Waldo.
Rabbi Jacobson, you know, we're as mentioned, so honored, and I know there's some friends of yours on the Zoom. Rabbi Fagelstock, who mentioned that he knows you well, and there's so many in our community and the entire Torah community that are excited to hear from you tonight. And I'll hand over the microphone to Rabbi Fettergren once Camille finds him on the Zoom, and we will look forward to your thoughts very much. Certainly, the title of your talk is quite intriguing.
My apologies. I am all right. Rabbi Fettergren. I think he is this one in the dark. Rabbi, is that you?
It is me. I don't know if
there we go.
You have no light, you have no power, of course. Okay.
I have no power, yeah. So I don't know if anybody can see me.
We can't, but we hear you clearly.
You hear me. And thank you to everybody who's involved, especially over the last 5-10 minutes as we were really trying to figure out how to work this through and to really make this happen. I want to just begin by thanking the programming committee for making this happen, and for Arnold and Anita Silber for sponsoring the speaker series, the broader speaker series. And really just a reminder that we have many speakers. Rabbi Jacobson is a real highlight for us, but we also have next week Rachel Tuckman as a speaker, and many, many other speakers that you will see advertised on our speaker series. Rabbi Jacobson really doesn't need any introduction. He's one of the most famous speakers in the Jewish world. And Rabbi Jacobson is, before COVID, he would really travel the world and speak all over. And he's really a mentor to thousands. And he's really the rabbi's rabbi. When rabbis need material, when they need really great material, so they turn to Rabbi Jacobson. He's really the rabbi's rabbi, and his talks are a mixture of humor, of great stories, and of real intellect, and it's extremely powerful and emotional, and it gets people to really think about deep concepts. And he's really does. He doesn't need me to say this, but he really impacts the entire world in a tremendous way. And so we are very thankful to have Rabbi Jacobson with us. And unfortunately, some of us, you can't really see me, and some of us don't have power, but we'll replace the power with the real power of Torah and with the words that you'll share with us. So thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. Just give me a thumbs up that you could see me and hear me, please.
Hear you very clearly, Rabbi.
Wonderful, wonderful. So thank you so much for your very kind remarks, your introductory words. Thank you, Rabbi Rosenblatt, for the honor I know he told me that he only had 15% to 10% of his phone. So he went to see if he can recharge it under the circumstances. Thank you so much, Rabbi Federgrun. And thank you so much to Sharet Tzedek congregation, to all of you, my dear friends, brothers and sisters. I know that your synagogue is not only the oldest in Vancouver and in British Columbia, but really one of the oldest in the entire region, founded in 1907. So it's now close to 115 years old, and not only survived, but thrived and going stronger and stronger from strength to strength, Mechayel El Chayel. So it's truly a thrilling privilege to be here with you, so many friends in the great Vancouver Jewish community and this great community of Sharet Tzedek. I thank the rabbis, I thank the lay leaders, the rebbitzins, and all of the members, and all of you joining us from near and far through your telephone or through your laptop, or if you have power, through your computer that is powered up, or wherever you're joining us from, for our encounter this evening. So Rabbi Federgrun suggested that I speak for approximately 45 minutes, and then afterwards, we open the floor for dialogue, questions, answers. You can unmute yourself and ask your questions verbally. If you want to post your questions on chat, that's also perfectly fine. It could be anonymous, so you could really say whatever you would like. So our theme this evening is a pretty loaded theme, and it's titled, Me Chosen? Is the belief in the chosenness of the Jewish people racist? It's an important question. And the reason it's an important question is because Jews are often uncomfortable with this idea of the chosen people. Somebody once shared with me a letter, and she wrote to me, she said, to suggest that Jews are the chosen people smacks of arrogance, elitism, racial prejudice. And that's the question we want to pose tonight. Is the belief in the chosen people a racist belief? Is it racist to believe that as a Jew, you're part of the chosen people? What is the Jewish perspective on this? How are we supposed to understand this? So the truth is that for starters, to call the idea of chosenness, the Jewish people are chosen, racist, seems to me a little strange, because Jews are not made up of one race. There's literally Jews from every conceivable type of race. The Yemenite Jews are a very different race than Iranian and Persian Jews, a very different race than Eastern European Jews, than Spanish Jews. Very different races, backgrounds, persuasions, and of course, cultures. And in fact, anybody who wants to become a Jew can become a Jew, no matter the color of their skin, no matter their race, no matter their ethnic group, no matter who he or she is. If you want, you don't have to. Judaism does not believe in the need to proselytize anybody. But if you want, you could become a Jew, and you're a full Jew, just like Moses and just like Abraham. In fact, Abraham himself converted. So you're just as Jewish as Abraham. So the idea that Judaism has to do with some type of race seems to me a little strange. By the way, I see already in the chat a lot of questions. So you feel free to put in your questions in the chat. Or later, if you can, if the rabbi doesn't mind, later you can also unmute yourself and ask your question verbally, publicly, if you wish. That's number one. But let's take this a little. Let's take this one step deeper. I think when we speak about what does it mean to be chosen, the chosen people, I think we really have to understand the following premise. And that is, what does it mean when we speak about unity? We speak about people being unified, people being integrated. We often make the error of thinking and equating equality with unity. What does equality mean? Does it mean that everybody is equal? Everything and everybody is equal? From a Jewish perspective, that could be a great error. And the best example would be marriage. What makes a marriage a good marriage? Certainly a husband and wife need to be unified, no question. But what does it mean that they're unified? Does it mean that they're not different? Of course they're different. We're different, but still equal. Each one has their strengths. Each one has their vices, and we complement each other. The greatest marriages are not marriages where husbands or wives don't believe that they or the other have flaws. It's learning from each other. It's being vulnerable with each other, and it's helping each other compensate for those things that we're missing. That's what makes a powerful relationship. Sometimes in the beginning of a marriage, you'll hear a husband say about his wife or a wife say about a husband, we're identical. He could finish my sentences. We have exactly the same tastes. We're identical in everything. But sooner or later, you're going to find out that you're different. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of us are different. But that's not what undermines a marriage. Differences don't undermine a marriage. What undermines a marriage is the lack of respect, the lack of empathy, the contempt that we have for each other, the lack of understanding of the other person. Okay. You can hear me clearly?
Yes, very well.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So the real idea of unity is not that everybody is the same and that everybody looks the same and thinks the same and has exactly the same qualities. Of course not. That is a skin deep unity. And the moment we find out that we're different, often our relationship crumbles. The real idea of unity is understanding that everyone is unified within and despite their uniqueness, like a jigsaw puzzle. Every single piece is unique, but it contributes something special to the puzzle, like limbs in a body. There's one unified living organism, but every limb and organ is unique. So that way our differences don't set us apart from each other, but we realize that there's one larger, holistic, integrated unity where each of us needs to help each other, support each other, rather than exploit each other. Why am I making me a coffee? I'm sorry, there was just here a little technical mishap. Okay, we're good.
On our end, it's good, Rabbi. I don't know if it's the streaming issue, but
Okay, perfect. I'm glad. A good, great example would be children in a family. You have children in the same family. Right? One of the most painful things that you can hear a parent tell a child is, why can't you be like your brother? Why can't you be like your sister? Because I'm not my brother. I'm not my sister. Every soul, every child has their unique talents, their unique gifts, their unique resources, their unique virtues, and also their unique challenges. And therefore, when we could understand this, what does it mean that the world is unified? What does it mean that the world works together, that nations learn to get along with each other? Peace, real equality doesn't mean everybody is the same. On the contrary, Everyone has their unique strengths, their unique contributions. And when I use my strengths to help you, and you use your strengths to help me, so that our differences don't cause us to be divided, but on the contrary, we learn how to use our differences as a gift that enhances all of us. That is what creates real unity, not just skin deep unity, because that's a unity that endures, because it doesn't ignore or deny the fact that we're different than each other. On the contrary, it appreciates the differences, it celebrates the differences, it honors the differences, and yet it recognizes that there's a larger unity. And sometimes I have strength that you may not have, you have strength that I don't have. And unity comes when, instead of using my power or my influence or my talents to exploit and manipulate, I use it to help those who need help in this area, just as they use their power to help me in those areas that I need help. And this is the first premise we have to understand when we speak about Jews being the chosen people. Why are you setting apart one nation from another nation? Come on, everybody is the same. We live in a generation where we all acknowledge the need for equality. But what does it really mean to be chosen? To be chosen means that Jews were given a special mission. Thank you, thank you. Jews were chosen for a special mission. And that mission is that they ought to be the ambassadors of God in this world, ambassadors of love, light, hope, healing, integrity, authenticity, wisdom, and redemption. They were chosen, in the words of Isaiah, to be legoyim nesaticha, to be a light unto the world, a light unto the nations. Chosenness doesn't mean I was chosen and therefore I can exploit you, I can manipulate you, I can exercise dominion and power over you and use you, God forbid. Chosen means that there are certain special qualities that each people was given, just like special qualities every individual was given. The Talmud says, no two faces are alike, no two mindsets are alike. Every person is unique, and every person is obligated to say that because of me, the world was created, because there's something at stake in my existence that no one else can fulfill. There's something about me that the whole world waits for. Birth is God saying, you matter. And the day you were born is the day God declared that the world is an incomplete place without you. There's something that you need to contribute to civilization and to history, past, present, and future, that nobody else could contribute before you or after you. It's the uniqueness of every person created in God's image. Every person is an indispensable note in the cosmic symphony. And the same is true about every people. The Jewish people were chosen for a unique mission, a unique vocation, a unique destiny, to be able to serve as moral teachers, as representatives of the creator of the world, to impart the message they absorbed at Sinai to the whole world. That is what we were chosen for. To put it differently, we were chosen to teach everybody that they were chosen in their own way. That's what we were chosen for. Because every person was chosen. Every person has a mission. Every person has a purpose. We were chosen to make it a full-time vocation, to teach by living example every person we come in contact with that you were chosen, that your life is not a random error, that your life is meaningful and purposeful, that God conceived you in love, that every moment of your life has powerful significance, that your deeds and words and thoughts impact the world, that every single thing you do has a power, a real power that endures. These are not messages that are always easy to grasp or messages that people just get by osmosis. These are messages that have to be taught, They have to be inculcated. That the most important thing about life is to be able to create a world of kindness, of goodness, a world that becomes a divine abode, a world in which each of us realizes that we are not only people who have rights, but we also have duties, we have responsibilities to each other. A world in which we realize that we are representatives, we are messengers, we are ambassadors. We're here for a purpose, we're on a mission. This is what we were chosen for. We were chosen to teach every person that they were chosen in their own unique way. And not only people, we were chosen to reveal in everything in the world that it was chosen. There's a beautiful mission in the Ethics of the Fathers, that everything in this world is a conduit for a unique energy of the divine. When I lift up a cup of coffee, my wife just made me a wonderful coffee because I'm a little tired and it's late here in New York. Before I drink a cup of coffee or a cup of orange juice or a cup of tea or water, there's a blessing. The blessing is, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shehakol niya b'dvara. Blessed are you, God, the ruler of the world, the consciousness of the world, because everything came into existence through your energy. What am I doing? I'm just drinking a cup of coffee. But before I drink, I meditate. There's a moment of mindfulness. And what am I saying? I'm saying I don't take these coffee beans for granted. I don't take this cup of hot water for granted. It all came into existence through your energy. The fact that a coffee bean can grow, do you know how many factors have to come together in order to be able to produce that coffee bean? Did you ever reflect on the processes of photosynthesis? On the molecules that make up water? On the atoms that make up molecules? We don't take it for granted. We're acknowledging that everything is here to reveal. Everything is a channel of God's oneness, of God's energy. The whole world is really one. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Which means not only that there's one God, but that there is oneness. Everything is part of that oneness. That oneness is the mission of the Jewish people. We were chosen to accentuate, to reveal that oneness. The prophet calls the Jewish people, Micha Amcha Yisrael Go Echad Ba'aretz. Who is like your nation Israel? A singular nation on earth. And one of the explanations in these words is, we are the nation Go Echad Ba'aretz, who's charged with the mission of revealing oneness on earth. In heaven, there is oneness. On earth, there is fragmentation, there is divisiveness. And our mission is to be able to reveal that oneness on earth. This is what Jewish chosenness means. Jewish chosenness is recognizing that every nation, just like every individual, has its unique contribution to history. And the Jewish people were chosen by the creator of the world to be, so to speak, his mouthpiece, to represent the divine, to be moral teachers of mankind. How? By being a living example of what it means to live as a person who is filled with a passion for life, a passion for love, and a passion for justice. But the truth is, my dear friends, it goes one step deeper. Not only is Jewish chosenness not a racist idea, it's really a very humble idea. And you'll notice that Jews are very uncomfortable with this notion. A lot of Jews, not all, but many. As I always say, CP is not PC. Chosen people is not politically correct. Why are Jews uncomfortable? You ask a Puerto Rican, are you the chosen people? Of course. Ask an Italian. Ask a Muslim, ask a Japanese man, ask somebody from China. Are you the chosen? Of course we're the chosen people. Every culture and religion and philosophy and nationality believed in their chosen people. But Jews are very uncomfortable. We're extremely uncomfortable with it. Why are we so uncomfortable with it? And I'll explain to you why. There are two types of chosenness. When a mortal human king chooses you, it smacks with superiority. Like we just read about Haman. The Persian king Ahasuerus chose Haman to be the prime minister. He elevated him among all of the other ministers, and Haman felt extremely pompous and arrogant. So it's like, oh, we're special. We're the chosen people. We're better than everybody else. We're superior to everybody else. That makes us very, very uncomfortable. It's a queasy feeling. I'm not better than anybody else. I'm like everybody else. So we have this feeling. It's like we're chosen. So what? Now we could look down at everybody. We're the only good ones. Everybody else is bad. But that demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of what chosenness means. When we speak about Jewish chosenness, it means God chose us. When God chooses you, it's very different than when a mortal king chooses you. And I'll explain to you why. You see, what does God mean? You'll indulge me. I'm going to become philosophical for a few seconds. When you say God, what is this God? What does God mean? God chooses you. Who's this God? In Kabbalah, the term that's used for God is never God. The term that's used for God is infinity, Ein Sof. God represents the infinity that pervades reality, that which transcends time, matter, and space, which brought everything into being, and which is really the essence of all reality. All reality is a fragment of divine oneness, of divine infinity, of divine energy. Max Planck, the famous theoretical physicist, said, we used to think that consciousness is a derivative of matter. Today we know that matter is a derivative of consciousness. The core of all consciousness, that's God. The core of all consciousness is the divine reality. And everything that exists in reality is one fragment, one aspect of that oneness. What does it mean that God chooses you to be his people? It means that you're chosen to basically represent the fact that there is infinite oneness in this world. What does that do to my ego? It basically obliterates it. Because if I'm part of infinity, then there's no room for an ego. So what does it mean to be chosen by God to be his people? It means that you have to be ready to burst your bubble and obliterate your ego and acknowledge your nothingness. My entire self is just a conduit for God's self. So here is the funny paradox. The more chosen you are, the more humble you are. When you say God chooses somebody to be his people, it means God chooses people who are ready to surrender their entire sense of vanity and egotism and say, I am just a conduit for God. So if somebody feels chosen by God and they become arrogant and elitist, then they don't understand what the whole concept is. The concept of being chosen by God means actually that I feel my ego much less, that I am less self-conscious, that I am less arrogant, that I am much more humble, that I am much more subservient and realize that I'm just a conduit for the divine energy. And that's the difference between who chooses you. That's the idea of a chosen people by God. When you're buddy with a human leader who chooses you, it could inflate your ego. But a real relationship with God bursts my selfish bubble because God is an infinite being. So all delusions of petty egotism and self-importance fall away when you stand before infinity. So being close with God demands introspection, self-improvement, humility, vulnerability, not smugness. This is the idea of the chosen people, a nation of individuals who have been given the opportunity to sense God's closeness, hear his truth, and relay this message to the world. All agree that it was the Jews who introduced monotheism and a system of morals and ethics that shaped the modern view of life and its purpose. It's the survival of Judaism to this day that attests to the eternal value of the system. So Jewish chosenness is not a gene, it's a state of the soul. Anybody who wishes to take it upon themselves is welcome, as long as they're ready to have their bubble burst, their ego obliterated. You want to be chosen? Be chosen. You know what it means to be chosen? To be chosen means that you acknowledge that I don't exist. I am a conduit for divine infinity. So the true test of chosenness is how humble you are. And that's why I think Jews are so uncomfortable with the term. You know why we're so uncomfortable? Because we're chosen. And when you're chosen by God, you're very uncomfortable with being chosen by God. I think we passed the test with flying colors. It's very hard for Jews to accept this. Other religious groups that I know are very comfortable claiming that they're the best. We Jews will do anything to deny that we're special. That's what I call the chosen people. That's exactly what I call the chosen people. Those who will do anything to deny that they're unique and they're special. Because what it really means to be chosen is that you realize that we're just conduits. We're just channels for divine energy. That there is a oneness that pervades all reality. And each of us is an aspect of that infinity. And you know, my friends, when you look at history and you say, me chosen? Am I the chosen people? I think it's important to remember two things. Number one is anti-Semitism. It's incredible that this one profound hatred has not vanished even after thousands of years, and even in countries where they never saw Jews. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. What caused it? After everything's said and done, for thousands of years, what's this obsession with the Jewish people? Somebody once told me, anti-Semitism exists because you believe you're chosen. Really? Does that make sense to you? There's a group that believes they're the chosen people, and therefore we have to create gas chambers for them. Therefore, we feel the need to nuke them and destroy them and obliterate them. It's something much deeper. Basically, Jews carry the burden of God in history. Jews represent eternity. They represent the divine. And every force and every person that cannot make peace with himself or herself, they can't make peace with God and morality, in some way, the venom is directed against the Jews, consciously or subconsciously. For me, this is one of the greatest powers. It represents that there's something unique about the Jewish story, and that has not been mitigated or diluted even after thousands of years. You know, we sometimes look at ourselves and we say, 2021, you know, we're just going through the motions. No, you're the same Jews who left Egypt and stood at Sinai. We're soon going to be celebrating Passover. We are the same Jews who left Egypt. Epigenetics teaches us that even the way the genes of our parents are affected, it's transmitted to us. Everything our ancestors experienced still lives in us. The good and the bad and the ugly, the trauma and the resilience. But we carry their genes. The Jews who left Egypt and stood at Sinai, we live them, we embody them, we carry their genes, we carry their souls, we carry their holiness, we carry some of their challenges. They call it intergenerational trauma, but we also carry their wisdom, their integrity, their resilience, their faith. And there's also something else. When you look at the fact that a group of slaves that left Egypt changed civilization and changed the world in the most dramatic way, where does this come from? How does such a thing happen? How do you explain this without the idea of chosenness? I mean, I don't want to sound like your Uncle Harry, but if you take the phenomenon of Nobel Prize winners, and I know there's always Uncle Harry who can list every Jew who won the Nobel Prize. I'm not going to be that Uncle Harry. But basically, between 1901 and today, they awarded around 900 Nobel Prizes. Jews are not even 0.25% of civilization. I would expect Jews to receive 1/4 of one Nobel Prize. But the fact is that around 200 Jews received Nobel Prizes. Does not make sense. In 2011 alone, 5 Jewish laureates were awarded a Nobel Prize. Around almost 25% of all individual recipients of Nobel Prizes were Jewish. 36% of all US recipients of the prize were Jewish. And we make up 0.2% of the world's population, 2% of the US population. So to give a little perspective, the global Islamic population is approximately, 1.4 billion, 1.6 billion. 20 more, maybe more than 20% of world population. They received since 1901 4 Nobel Prizes, and one of them was Yasser Arafat. We won't go there. There are 14 million Jews, not 1.6 billion Jews, 14 million Jews. Again, 0.2% of the world population. And they received almost 200 Nobel Prizes. How does such a thing happen? So you say, well, our mothers drove us crazy to do well in school. Okay, it's true, our mothers drove us crazy to do well in school. That's what it's about. Thomas Cohill is a very nice Irish Gentile. He wrote a book, very good book called The Gifts of the Jews. And I saw here, it has a line. He says, the Jew gave us the outside and the inside, our outlook and our inner life. We can hardly get up in the morning or cross the street without being Jewish. This is an Irish Gentile writing. We dream Jewish dreams and hope Jewish hopes. Most of our best words came from the Jews. New, adventure, surprise, unique, individual, person, vocation, time, history, future, freedom, progress, spirit, faith, hope, justice. These are gifts of the Jews. These terms are not embedded naturally into humanity. They had to be taught. They are ideas. These were ideas that Jews gave the world. So Thomas Cole writes that the West's most deeply held belief about life, human nature, God, justice are owed to the ancient Israelites. They developed a new way of experiencing reality. And I'm quoting an Irish Gentile. It may be said with some justice that theirs is the only new idea that human beings have ever had. Irish Gentile, theirs is the only new idea that human beings ever had. Wow. If you ever read Paul Johnson's History of the Jews, non-Jewish author, he says Jews have paved a road in the jungle of history. They have conferred dignity and purpose upon the world, upon history. Now, if I would say this, you would say I'm racist, and I'm meshuggah, and I'm insane, and I need some good therapy. But this is a quote from an Irish Gentile. What is this? How does all of this happen? How do you explain all of this? And I want to tell you something. This really touched me. I read this, a Christian philosopher wrote this. You know what he wrote? I thought it was so insightful. He wrote as follows. If you look at the impact of the Jewish people on civilization, if you look at their influence, you will see that it is incredible. It's disproportionate. It does not make sense rationally how a group of slaves can change history in such a dramatic way. They introduce a moral God creator, that the universe is united, integrated. It has purpose. It has meaning. They write the world's most influential book, the Bible. They devise ethical monotheism. They are the only civilization to deny the cyclical worldview and give humanity belief in a linear, purposeful history. They provide morality-driven prophets. They're the first ones to speak about world peace. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Amos, Malachi. How does such a thing happen? So this Christian philosopher wrote, he said, the explanation that the Jews were chosen by God is actually the most humble explanation that they could have given for their unique and extraordinary accomplishments. The fact that they told us that they were chosen by the creator of the world to be his ambassadors to the planet, to revolutionize the landscape of our world and turn it into a place of goodness, kindness, holiness, and happiness. That this is the source of the Jewish gift, that this is the source for the profound contribution that the Jewish people have had, and for the profound emotions that the Jews still stir up in the hearts of billions of people. How do you answer this? How do you explain this? Jews could have said, it's us. Instead, they said, nothing to do with us. It has to do with him, nothing to do with us. He put it so beautifully. The idea of chosenness is the humblest explanation Jews could have given to their remarkable achievements in the landscape of human history. Completely not taking the credit, but saying, we were chosen to be God's ambassadors to the world. And till today, we still see the profound emotions that Jews stir up, both positive and negative. What does it teach us, my dear friends? It teaches us that nothing about the Jewish people has become old. It teaches us that the same people who were here thousands of years ago, the ears of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, the Jews who were enslaved in Egypt and then emancipated from Egyptian bondage, who ate matzah 3,500 years ago, the same Jews are here today with the same power, the same holiness, the same spiritual energy and intensity, and the same mission to change the world and bring it to a place of intimacy, of oneness, of redemption. One of the greatest writers of all times was Leo Tolstoy. And Tolstoy wrote incredible words. And here again, these are words not written by a Jew. Tolstoy translated into English. I read, I quote, "What is a Jew? Let us see what kind of peculiar creature the Jew is, which all the rulers and all the nations have separately abused and molested, oppressed and persecuted, trampled and butchered, burned and hanged, and in spite all of this, he is yet alive. What is a Jew who has never allowed himself to be led astray by all earthly possessions, which his oppressors and persecutors constantly offered in order that he should change his faith and forsake his own Jewish religion?" But he never did. The Jew, writes Tolstoy, is that sacred being who was brought down from heaven, the everlasting fire, and has illuminated with it the entire world. He is the religious source, spring and fountain of which all the rest of the peoples have drawn their beliefs and their religions from. The Jew is the pioneer of liberty, even in those olden days when the people were divided into but two distinct classes, slaves and masters. Even so long ago, the Jew had the law of Moses, which prohibited the practice of keeping a person in bondage for more than 6 years. The Jew is a pioneer of civilization. Ignorance was condemned in olden Palestine even more than it is in today's civilized Europe. The Jew is the emblem of civil and religious tolerance. Love the stranger and the sojourner, Moses says, because you have been strangers in the land of Egypt. And this was said in those remote and savage times when the principal ambition of the races and the nations consisted in crushing and enslaving one another. The Jew, says Leo Tolstoy, is the emblem of eternity. He whom neither slaughter or torture of thousands of years could destroy. He whom neither fire nor sword nor inquisition was able to wipe off the face of the earth. He who was the first to produce the oracles of God. He who has been for so long the guardian of prophecy and who transmitted it to the rest of the world. Such a nation cannot be destroyed. The Jew is as everlasting as is eternity itself. Leo Tolstoy. It was in 1936 when the British created the Peel Commission, famous Peel Commission, to decide what will be the future of Palestine. There was profound tension in what was called Palestine under the British mandate. David Ben-Gurion, who would later become the first prime minister of Israel in 1948, then he was the head of the Jewish Agency, was called to the stand. And they asked David Ben-Gurion, they said, where is your kushan for Israel? Kushan was a term that meant your deed, your legal deed. Where do you have a legal deed? And he pointed to the Tanakh, to the Hebrew Bible, and he says, this book says that this is our land thousands and thousands of years. And then Ben-Gurion turned to the commission and he said, I want to ask you a question. How many people and how many youngsters know the day that the Mayflower arrived on the shores of what later would become the United States of America? How many people know how many people were on that boat? Does anybody know what they ate? What they ate when they were on that boat? Can anybody answer these questions? And this was just a few hundred years ago. Ben-Gurion said, now go over to any Jewish child with a basic Jewish education, even a minimal one, and ask him, which day did the Jewish Mayflower leave Egypt? And he'll tell you, Passover. What did the Jews eat? And every Jewish boy or girl will tell you, matzah. And how many left? And they'll tell you 600,000 between 20 and 60, and plus more women, and plus children and senior citizens and so forth. And this happened more than 3,000 years ago. And we're still eating the same matzah and the same bitter herbs. And when you taste the matzah, you could taste that it's a couple of thousand years old usually, even though you're going to say the matzah is delicious this year. But you know what I'm talking about. So Ben-Gurion says, this is the power of history. This is the power of our story. This is the power of our people. My dearest friends, when we learn, when we study Jewish history, but when we live Jewish history, it becomes very obvious that each and every one of us is part of an extraordinary story. To quote the late Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, who once quoted Shakespeare, who said, some people are born great, some people grow into greatness, and some people have greatness thrust upon them. To be a Jew is to be somebody who has greatness thrust upon him or upon her. I did not choose it, you did not choose it. But when you were born into this nation, into this people, you have greatness thrust upon you. You're part of a story that begins thousands of years ago. And despite savage suffering, through thick and thin, through extraordinary persecution and untold suffering and misery and agony, this people has endured, survived, thrived, produced some of the greatest mystics, prophets, teachers of morality, teachers of law, teachers of ethics, teachers of right and wrong, never mind their contributions to all of the secular branches of wisdom discussed above. But what about their contribution to spirituality in this nation? And this nation still holds on to that fire and that mission, which is ultimately to change the world, to be God's ambassadors to mankind, beginning with God's ambassadors to ourselves in our homes and our communities. So my dearest friends, no, I don't think that the belief in Jewish chosenness is even a fraction of what we would call today racism. If anything, it's the other way around. This idea of chosenness that has emboldened us and empowered us and infused us with the responsibility and the duty to be able to be there for every person in need to the best of our ability, to be able to lift up spirits, to be able to kindle hearts, and to be able to know that our one obsession is peace, justice, love, and to bring our world closer to redemption. Thank you so much.
Rabbi, thank you so much. In this challenging time of COVID, your words of Torah and spirituality are so profoundly uplifting. I'm honestly speechless. So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. I'm trying to hand over the microphone to Rabbis Berger and Rosenblatt, who will serve as moderators. But again, on behalf of our entire shtetl and our kehillah, thank you so much for joining us. Rabbis Berger and Rosenblatt, are you unmuted?
Yes, I'm unmuted, but I'm hoping Rabbi Berger this is really Rabbi Berger's, and b'chavod, Rabbi Berger, if you would like to pick up the conversation from here.
Okay. I'm on my phone though because of the blackout. The lights have back down. Everybody has lights back at this point, or is it just us?
They can't respond. So yes, I think we've got power.
Rabbi, you were speaking so powerfully. We had a yehi or moment. We had to let there be lights, and I think we were illuminated with your speech, but we're also illuminated physically as well. I'm going to try and get over to the questions in the chat room that it is right now. There's a couple questions here. I know that one question that I received is that someone's asking here, what is the most important step in engaging disconnected Jews in a sense, both like teens and adults? What would be the best way, the most way? The people that don't understand this message, they don't hear this message, they didn't show up for this message. So we can't take you around everywhere we go. But the fact is what can we do to live this message and share this message?
Great question. What can we do to live this message and share this message, especially with our brethren who are not very affiliated and frankly not interested? What I find is, even if externally somebody is not interested, each and every one of us is looking for meaning. Each and every one of us is looking for healing. Each and every one of us wants to have a better marriage, better relationship with our children, better relationship with ourselves. And this is where Judaism has so much compelling power. In today's world, especially after the pandemic, everybody is searching for an anchor. We realize that the most important front is our inner heart. Before Corona, everybody was running around, flying here, flying there. We can always distract ourselves going to a game, going to the mall, going bowling, going for pizza, going to the movie theater, going here, going there. With Corona, where we all went into quarantine to some degree or another, I think everybody realized that the most important terrain to conquer is my own inner heart. If I'm not at peace here, I could run everywhere, but it's worthless. So I think today is actually a very powerful opportunity to speak to people in a very deep place. Because really Judaism often becomes about rituals and very institutionalized. And that's a mistake, because rituals and institutionalized religion are important. But the most compelling power of Judaism is its message for the soul, its message for inner human serenity and happiness. And I think when we can relate to that aspect of Judaism, we can bequeath it to others by having conversations about these topics, by inviting friends, colleagues, family members to a discussion, to a class, to a meditation. But I think the prerequisite is for Jews themselves to become really educated. Very often, Judaism for many of us is just robotic. I may come to synagogue, I may go through the motions, I'll eat matzah on Passover, but there's no emotional and spiritual experience. I think it's so important, and I invite all of you to expand your horizons, to expand our horizons, and to be able to really understand what it means to have an intimate relationship with God. What does it mean to have an intimate relationship with yourself? What does it mean to have an intimate relationship with other people? If we can see in Judaism a blueprint for inner transformation, then it's so much easier to be able to get excited about it and to teach it and to share it with people. Of course, everybody has a choice how much they want to learn and how much they want to accept. But the common denominator is that even the most secular and unaffiliated Jews, everybody is searching. Everybody is anxious. Everybody is stressed. Everybody has some trauma to deal with. Everybody. And we're all looking for tools. So this one is yoga, this one is therapy, and this one is Pilates, and this one is the gym, and this one is transcendental meditation, and this one is into mindfulness, and this one is into eating bagels and lox. And these people deal with it through eating sushi, and other Jews deal with stress through eating kishke and kokosh cake and knishes and babka, right? Everyone has their way of numbing the anxiety or sublimating the anxiety. But Jewish teachings have an incredible spiritual and psychological dimension that I think is very powerful today and can be really bequeathed to our youth and to anybody. But we have to present it that way, not judgmental, extremely loving and embracing, and most importantly, spiritually transformative.
Quick follow question to that is just maybe a little bit more practical, is that starting out, if you're just starting out and you want to take that path, what would you recommend to read, to learn, to do? What would be your first steps in that matter?
Excellent question. So first of all, what I would do is a few practical steps to begin with, and then you grow slowly. You know, it's not good to do everything in one day, because then you're often left with nothing. It's important. Incremental growth is very important. But the first thing is, because we live in the internet age, find 1, 2, or 3 Jewish teachers, women or men, live or recordings or books, writings or speaking, that speak to you. Could be rabbis, philosophers, teachers, activists, whoever it is, in Israel, in America, in Canada, in British Columbia, wherever it is, and learn with them. Read their works, listen to their lectures, follow their classes. In other words, expand your horizons. Dedicate every day, when you're on the treadmill, when you're jogging, when you're cooking, whatever it is, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes of listening to Torah classes or lectures. And you have access today to everybody, great orators, women, men, every subject. Find 1, 2, 3 people that you like and become their students. And you'll see after a month or two, you start learning, your horizons are expanded. Torah, learning Torah enriches us. And today you have access to the best teachers. They're all out there, even if not live, first of all live, but even if not live, even those who passed on or are not giving live classes, you have books, or you have MP3s, or you have websites, you have seminars, you have audios, you have podcasts, whatever you have. I would find people who speak to your soul and heart and become their students. Learn with them on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, the Torah portion of the week, or something about the holiday, or any Jewish subject, or any subject in life. And you will see how that will slowly really enhance your paradigms, broaden your horizons, create much more knowledge. You'll become much more knowledgeable and knowledgeable and educated. But it has to be teachers that speak to your mind and speak to your soul. They teach Torah in a way that's relevant and inspiring. That's number one. The second thing I would say is, I think, to dedicate a few minutes in the morning to spirituality, meditation, and prayer is very powerful, even if it's 5 minutes. But every single morning, you know, in Judaism, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing we say is, we do a special meditative prayer. We say, thank you, eternal living King, for giving me back my soul with great compassion. Your faith in me is incredible. That's the first thing we do as Jews when we wake up in the morning. And I want to tell you something. I had today a very long shvuas with Professor Alan Dershowitz about different topics. We had a very long conversation. And, I asked him about different parts of his life, etc., criticism against him, whatever it is. So he tells me, he says, I grew up in a home where they taught us that when you wake up in the morning, you say, Modani. First thing, you thank God for giving you back your soul. He says, that's the type of home I grew up in. He says, then I moved on and became a Harvard law professor in my 20s, 1960s, etc. So I said, do you still do that? And he said, yeah, in the morning, 82 years old, every morning, the first thing, Moida Ani, I thank God for giving me back my soul. And I thought that's so powerful, it's these are things that remain with you. So I would encourage that when you wake up in the morning, do this meditative prayer, and then spend a few minutes in prayer to God, meditation. If you want to use the prayer book, if you're comfortable with that, talk to Hashem, connect to your soul, anchor yourself in your infinite core, which is one with the divine creator. If you're a man, you could wrap tefillin for 5 minutes as an incredible way of connecting. If you're a woman, you don't need the external Jewish blood pressure. I call taking Jewish blood pressure. You can do it just through your words and your thoughts. That's the second thing I would suggest. And the third thing I would suggest is that every single day, you try to do one act of helping another person, what we call tzedakah, either physical charity or calling somebody or doing somebody a favor or giving somebody advice or sending somebody an uplifting WhatsApp or text or email. But every day to do at least one act of love and kindness and generosity to a person you know or a person you don't know. And these are the three things I would suggest as an opening journey. The study of Torah. You could find the best teachers today on the internet or books, something of prayer, and every day an act of love and kindness. And that's how we begin to live and celebrate Jewish life.
Thank you, Rabbi. Very, very informative and very practical. Question, I don't know how much time we have left for you, but I'd like, maybe I'll just combine two questions here, is that you talked at the beginning, this idea of unity. And I think that a common challenge we have is in Vancouver, but I think most cities have, is that there's greater differentiation and specialization and fragmentation. And it kind of creates more and more different subgroups and subgroups and that subgroups. And how can we even hope at this point? Difference between men and women are different things, but now we have multiple differences and things. How can we hope to create unity in this world today? A little bit. That's the first part of the question. I guess also is that with the world the way it is, with the internet, and they would be rather unpopular to a message of perhaps Jewish chosenness, and we're not all ready to counter that, and Jewish pride, and that we need to be more humble. How do we counter? How can we be part of social media and send things out about Jewish pride without getting all that backlash and that feeling of that we're guilty of too much pride?
Excellent question. Whoa. You can still see me and hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll try to answer both questions. The first question about unity is, I think one of the most powerful teachings of Judaism is that we don't try to change the world. We try to change ourselves. And when I really change myself, the impact is incredible. And this is really true. And you can see it with the coronavirus. The whole world was changed because of one man or woman, we're not sure, who came home one night with some bats to feed his family. And then he sneezed. And a few months later, the whole world is on lockdown. So we never realized the impact that we have positively and negatively. I think when it comes to unity, it's the same thing. I don't think our question should be, how do we unify the whole world? How do we unify all the peoples, all the civilizations? I think my question has to be, how do I create unity in my own family? How do I create unity between siblings, all my siblings? How do I create unity between parents and children? How do I create unity between me and my kids and my grandkids, between me and myself and my spouse? How do I create unity between me and my neighbors and my partners and my community members? That's the real question. And you know what? When each of us works on this in our own little circle, in our own little corner, it has an impact. The old idea of the butterfly flapping its wings in the Far East, creating a tornado in British Columbia and causing an outage of power because somebody sneezed in Japan. Or today with the coronavirus, right? Somebody touched a doorknob in Italy and therefore nobody can leave their house and every shul is closed down for close to a year because somebody touched a doorknob in Italy. But how much more so in the positive? When we shift our consciousness, when we create more unity, the energy travels. Positive energy travels even faster than negative energy because the speed of light is faster than everything. And the source of light is Torah or, it's called light. And I think we have to realize the power of unity, and practically it means don't get petty. Don't live with pettiness. What happens often is we become petty. We get personal. It becomes about revenge and vengeance. And if you disagree with me, I can't tolerate you and I have to hate you and despise you. And we can't afford that, especially Jews. We can't afford that. We have differences of opinions, believe me. There are, 200 people listening now? Everyone has a different opinion. Not only that, within each and every one of us, we change our minds every few seconds. You can discuss that with your therapist. We all have differences of opinions. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that we don't trust each other. I don't think we all have to agree, but we have to be able to be here for each other. We have to be able to support each other, to trust each other, to be able to lean on each other. Do we have to agree about everything? Absolutely not. There are going to be things we don't agree on. Sometimes bigger things, sometimes smaller things. Okay, so what? Brothers don't have to agree, but they have to be brothers. Sisters don't have to agree, but they have to be sisters. Spouses don't have to agree. You know, one of the greatest pieces of research on marriage, in my opinion, is they used to think, what makes a good marriage? Not too many fights. What makes a bad marriage? They're always fighting. Today, Dr. Gutman did research. He says 69% of arguments that couples have at the beginning of their marriage, they will have 60 years later when he's 98 and she's 96 and they're in Palm Beach enjoying the sun and they have a good marriage, they'll still be arguing about 70% of the arguments they had the first week of marriage. What makes a good marriage versus a bad marriage is not how many arguments you have, it's how you argue. Do arguments create mistrust and a sense of betrayal and you're not here for me? Or we learn how to argue respectfully. So even the best marriages are filled with arguments. So what? Read the Talmud. There's not a single page of Talmud that's not filled with arguments. So what? We don't demonize each other because of arguments. We don't burn. This is the uniqueness of the Talmud. Neither the Talmud is that there is respect given to a dissenting view, even if I disagree, and even if I'm right and you're wrong. And of course, I'm right and you're wrong. What's the question, right? I'm always right and you're always wrong. So what? The demonization, the hatred, the lack of trust, the disrespect. This is what kills us. In America, you know, where I come from, we just had, I don't have to tell you, we just had, you know, it's crazy between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It was Michigan. What happened? You're not allowed to have a disagreement. You're not allowed to vote for different candidates. You're not allowed to support somebody in some areas and disagree with them in other areas. Suddenly, political candidates became gods, deities. I have to worship you. What if I vote for somebody? I don't like everything about this person, but I like certain things. This lack of civil debate is very disturbing. And I think we have to repair that in ourselves. In terms of your second question about Jewish pride and Jewish dignity, listen, let me tell you something from my experience. The non-Jewish world respects Jews who respect Judaism. The non-Jewish world is embarrassed by Jews who are embarrassed by Judaism. Never be embarrassed by who you are and where you come from. We're not talking here about Jewish pride that is about elitism, that smacks with elitism and disrespect. But a Jewish pride, real Jewish pride is humility, is about humility, as I explained. Real Jewish pride is knowing your responsibility as a Jew in this world. Never be embarrassed by it. People respect Jews who respect themselves. People love Jews who love Judaism. People admire Jews who admire Judaism. The fact that there are self-hating Jews, the fact there are Jews that they're obsessed with loathing Israel and love singling out Israel in a disproportionate way to be criticized more than Iran and more than Afghanistan and more than Libya and more than Egypt and more and more than Pakistan. Okay, I hope one day they'll be able to find some tolerance for their brethren. I hope so. But don't be afraid and don't be embarrassed. Especially young Jews need to be inculcated with a healthy sense of inner dignity, knowing who you are, knowing what your mission is. Never be embarrassed. But it's important in your homes to inculcate in your children and grandchildren an understanding of who they are and what they represent.
What a beautiful way to end, Rabbi Jacobson. I would say amen to that, and the irony of the fact that those last words were shared in response to Rabbi Berger, who lives and breathes that in our high school here in our community, and inculcates and infuses within our children this Ahavat Yisrael and a love of Torah. It was really very special for me to see this. And I want to hand it over to Rabbi Fedegrin. I want to first, though, thank you for just such an incredibly uplifting and meaningful hour and a half. For my soul, I can tell you this was something that I was very much craving and needing, and I certainly will go into Shabbos with a real sense of energy and excitement and gratitude. I want to thank Arnold and Anita Silber for enabling this entire speaker series. We have another amazing speaker coming next week, and we have some really powerful women speakers in the next few weeks. So kol hakavod and toda rabah. I want to thank the programming committee. Tonight, in particular, Jeff Blicker, who was a real motivator behind bringing you, Rabbi Jacobson. And if it wasn't for the power outage, I think he would have had 10,000 people here single-handedly. So, Jeff, your passion is so deeply appreciated. And I obviously want to thank Rachel and Rabbi Fedegrin and Rabbi Rosenblatt for their commitment to our shul, and Rabbi Berger for moderating tonight. So I'll pass it over to Rabbi Fedegrin. Thank you again, Rabbi Jacobson, and to all those that attended. May you have a peaceful and meaningful Shabbos.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Jacobson. Just to echo what Jonathan just said, it was really, truly inspiring for us to hear your very insightful words. It really, as Rabbi Berger mentioned, Vayhi Or, in the middle of this blackout, real spiritual light woke up within us, and we very much appreciate it. On behalf of really the entire Vancouver community and all over 200 that were on. And so thank you so much. Cult of.
Erev Tov, everyone. Laila Tov.